The NBA is a cutthroat industry where you can go from being a highly touted, hyped up prospect to being a complete afterthought in a heartbeat, and if you don't at least show some early signs of promise and potential on a somewhat regular basis, talks quickly shift to labeling you as a draft bust by the masses. The unfortunate truth is that a lot of players in those kind of talks do end up disappointing through their careers, but every now and then we see a few late bloomers overcome the odds and blossom out of nowhere, which brings us to today's video. Today we'll be discussing 4 players in particular that have been labeled as a draft bust for a while now, but this season they're finally starting to get their careers back on track, turning things around. Before we start though, it turns out a good amount of you watching right now aren't even subscribed to the channel, so if you enjoy the content, consider hitting the subscribe button, as not only does it help out a ton, but I'd also very much appreciate it. Now with that being said, let's begin. The first former bust now finally turning his career around this season that we'll be discussing today is Gerson Yabusele of the Philadelphia 76ers. Yabusele was drafted all the way back in the 2016 NBA draft, 16th overall, just outside of the lottery, but still he came in expected to be, at minimum, a productive quality role player. He was drafted by the Boston Celtics at the time when they were just starting to re-emerge as a force in the Eastern Conference, which meant that the pressure was on from day one to be able to contribute to winning basketball with very little lenience when it comes to making mistakes and developing, as all young players need room for. Yabusele's strong frame, budding three-point stroke, and athleticism gave him the raw tools to become something meaningful, but he struggled to put it all together in Boston because of his inability to crack the team's rotation on a consistent basis, and after 2 years, he got waived by the team. Interest in him at the NBA level was minimal after that, so he returned overseas, playing in China, France, and Spain, and in this time was honestly very good for him, for finding places that he could play consistently and grow his game. And then this summer, at the Olympics with France, he was ready to show that he was ready for a comeback. He dominated the tournament, caught the attention of the Philadelphia 76ers, and they signed him to a 1-year minimum deal, with them excited to prove that he could stick around this time. And now he's on track for a big-time payday this upcoming summer when he hits free agency again. Yabusele now knows how to use that strength to his advantage and is one of the most versatile role-player big men in the NBA today. He's scoring about 11 points per game, shooting the ball incredibly efficiently at 50% from the field and 39% from 3, spacing the floor and bullying smaller defenders in the paint. Defensively, he has served very well as both a power forward and a backup center, with the strength and foot speed to handle different types of matchups, and he's incredibly unselfish, always making the right play without forcing it, so his NBA career is firmly back on track at 29 years of age. Before we get to the next player though, I want to thank The Outlet for sponsoring today's video. The Outlet is one of the fastest growing sports betting communities dedicated to providing expert insights, daily picks, and advanced AI-driven predictions, quickly becoming a top choice for sports bettors looking to maximize profits through informed strategies. At The Outlet, they focus on long-term profitability, not quick guaranteed wins, setting you up for a better outlook in the long run with exclusive access to research from professional analysts. They also cover an abundance of different platforms such as Prize Picks, Sleeper, Chalkboard, Underdog Fantasy, and more, with thousands of members already benefiting from the service, most of the time finding themselves pleasantly surprised with how much better they perform since joining the group. If you're ready to join in on the fun, then go down to the link in the description and use promo code HOOPS at checkout for an additional 15% off your order. Once again, thank you to The Outlet for sponsoring today's video. Now let's get back to the topic at hand. The next draft bust saving their career this season is Moses Moody of the Golden State Warriors. For years, the career of Moses Moody has been characterized by limited playing time and a case of what could have been for the Golden State Warriors. The Warriors had 2 lottery picks in the 2021 NBA draft when they selected Moses Moody, and almost immediately after their selection of him, guys like Alperen Şengün and Trey Murphy were selected, who are both headed towards stardom, so it has been frustrating at times for the Warriors faithful to see Moody struggle to consistently get run in the rotation and to see his role fluctuate so much game to game. Moody was viewed as a high-level 3-and-D wing when they drafted him, with enough shot-creating upside to potentially blossom into more, but in his first 2 seasons, he averaged just 4 points per game on mediocre shooting splits, and his defense was not consistent enough for Coach Steve Kerr to trust him. He wasn't confident in his own ability, and that's a point that Coach Kerr has emphasized time and time again over the years, but now in his 4th season, Moody is finally starting to come into his own. When the Warriors traded away Andrew Wiggins to bring in Jimmy Butler, Butler's presence obviously gets credited for a lot of the improvements that the team has made since then, but Moody is the one who saw an opportunity for a bigger role, he took it, and ran with it. Thanks in part also to an injury suffered by Jonathan Kuminga, Moody saw his minutes increase, and since that point, he's been playing the best basketball of his life, and it has had a direct correlation on the Warriors' success. He's taken over the starting small forward spot on the team, and in the 18 games that he has been in the starting lineup this season, the Warriors have won a ridiculous 17 of those 18 games, losing just one single outing with Moody as a starter, and in those 18 games, Moody is shooting a blistering 50% from the field and 46% from 3, scoring 12 points per game. His defensive rotations have been fine-tuned, he's making defenses pay on the perimeter when they try too hard to slow down Steph Curry and Jimmy Butler, and he's becoming the perfect 3-and-D guy he was expected to be 4 years ago. The next draft bust currently saving their career this season is Jaxson Hayes of the Los Angeles Lakers. Hayes was the 8th pick in the 2019 NBA draft, with his 7-foot frame and his incredible athleticism highlighting the upside that scouts saw in him. As a prospect, he was compared to a younger Hassan Whiteside, Clint Capella, and Jarrett Allen for his physical tools and mobility, along with the defensive impact he projected to be able to provide as a rim protector and shot blocker down the line. Offensively, he has always been incredibly raw, and overall, he was a late bloomer to the game of basketball as it is, with his journey to the league being unlike most others. In high school, Jaxson Hayes barely made the freshman team. As a sophomore, he was coming off of the bench for the JV team. As a junior, he was coming off the bench for varsity, and as a senior, he finally started his first game ever, so he wasn't exactly used to the rigors of playing a big role on the court consistently. When the Pelicans drafted him, they were hoping he could become the impactful piece in the middle that held everything together, protecting the paint and throwing down lobs on offense, but the growing pains always outweighed the positives, and the Pelicans, year after year, performed better with Hayes off the court. After 4 years, the Pelicans decided not to re-sign him, so he then, in free agency, signed with the Lakers, and they ended up taking a flyer on him and his upside as a team in desperate need of a center, and that desperation has become even more prevalent since they've traded away Anthony Davis for Luka Doncic, and while everyone was panicking about the Lakers having no big men to hold things down in the middle without Davis, Hayes has stepped right in and been a fantastic solution. His numbers on paper may not look much different than years past, but he is a prime example of needing to watch games to understand how much he has improved this season compared to prior years, as the Lakers have actually become the NBA's #1 ranked defense in the games that Jaxson Hayes has started this year, and they've won 14 of their last 16 games since Hayes' insertion into the starting lineup. Hayes' versatility on defense is finally shining through, he's playing winning basketball, and he's gone from someone the Pelicans gave up on to being a real piece vital to one of the best teams in the NBA. And finally, the last player turning their career around this season after being labeled as a bust is Scoot Henderson of the Portland Trailblazers. I know it's a bit of a reach to include Henderson today in just his 2nd season in the league, but some of the conversations surrounding him during his rookie year last season were incredibly overblown, and I'm happy to be able to set the record straight on the matter. Last year's draft was the Victor Wembanyama class where everyone else took a backseat, but Scoot was expected to be another star right behind him. On draft night though, the Charlotte Hornets shocked a lot of people by taking Brandon Miller over Scoot Henderson, but then Henderson went on to have a pretty disappointing rookie year, while Miller played exceptionally, and the negative slander thrown Scoot's way was at an all-time high at the end of the season. Scoot was labeled as a bust by the masses, was before his teenage years were even over with, which just is not fair to a guy playing the point guard position, which is literally always the most difficult position to get acclimated to at the NBA level. Last season, Henderson's numbers weren't even terrible on paper either, putting up 14 points and 5 assists per game, but he was very inefficient, making just 37% of his shots and 32% of his threes, plus his defense left a lot to be desired. His impact metrics were also pretty rough, with the Blazers performing a whopping 8.2 points worse per 100 possessions with him on the court. Again though, there's a difference between critiquing young players when they're struggling and completely writing them off, and this season, Henderson is quieting everyone that wrote him off. His numbers on paper are somewhat similar to last year, but the biggest improvements have been in all of the areas he was once a liability, as he's now shooting a much more respectable 43% from the field and 37% from 3, he's defending hard, he's committing fewer turnovers, and he's been staying under control while still playing aggressively. The Blazers this season have also been an impressive 5.8 points better per 100 possessions with him on the court, so he's gone from hampering the team to bolstering them in a big way in just one season, and moving forward, that bust label should be eliminated from any conversations about him. And with that being said, that's all I have for you today. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and comment down below what you think of these players and their turnarounds. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time.